The Knicks opened up their summer league with maybe a little bit of a repeat of some of the worst playoff memories of this past year, losing to the Detroit Pistons in pretty grandiose fashion. That was very different from the playoffs, and they lose 104-86. But Pacome Dadiet had a fantastic game, and there were some good showings from some of the first-time summer Knicks. So we're going to get into that and some kind of disappointing performances from the other sophomores in the game right now on Locked On Knicks.
You are Locked On Knicks, your daily New York Knicks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
All right, welcome into Locked On Knicks, your daily New York Knicks podcast. I'm Alex Wolfe. I'm editor-in-chief of Knicks site The Strickland, as you can find at thestrick.land. And he's Gavin Schall, your favorite play-by-play broadcaster, and the Saturday co-host of the Locked On NBA podcast. And today's show is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. On today's show, talking about the Knicks' first summer league game. Kind of landed with a thud. 104-86 loss to the Pistons, but I feel like the Summer League Knicks never really do that well. So the game result, not important. How the players played, maybe more important. So we're going to talk about Pacome Dadiet and his fantastic effort. Really efficient game for him in 25 minutes. Talk about the other sophomores that joined him that had kind of mixed results. Definitely not Tyler Kolek or Kevin McCullar Jr.'s most memorably good game. And then talk about some of the newcomers like James Nnaji, Mohamed Diawara, and Dink Pate, who all had varying levels of success and not success in their time that they managed to play as well. But first, Gavin, we should talk about Pacome Dadiet. 8 of 13 shooting, 1 of 3 from 3, 17 points in just under 25 minutes. Had 3 turnovers, but the Knicks were just all over the place with turning the ball over in this game. So I'm not going to hold that to him too much when he was one of the only guys that was actually efficient in this game, particularly on volume, which you cannot really say for anyone else on the roster in this one. But yeah, I thought this was a pretty good showing for the scoring chops of Dadiet. I liked the timing on a couple cuts that he made. The 3-point shot, the one that he made, was very quick, very effortless looking. The other two, I mean, the form looked good. It seems like he's definitely been I mean, we literally just talked about it yesterday, like about, hey, how much is he finally adjusted to like the NBA 3-point line from playing in Europe his whole life? Seems like he's there, to me at least, and we'll see if he has like a big breakout game from 3 at some point during the summer league. But all in all, I was pretty darn happy with what we saw out of him.
Yeah, I thought it was a more refined version of the player we saw a year ago. To your point, that shot in the corner was probably the highlight for me, even though it wasn't like overly complicated, just quick dip, quick trigger on the 3. I don't know. I just have a feeling that the guy can shoot. I know the numbers don't scream it up to this point, but just watching him, how comfortable he is, like the height he gets on his shot. He just seems like very like smooth, easy, quick trigger, great energy transfer, soft touch. Like I'm really, really encouraged about his shot. I don't know how much of that is just like classic summer optimism where you talk yourself into one of these guys and there wasn't really, and outside of, we'll get into Ariel Hukporti. I think he had some real moments in this game. There wasn't a lot to talk yourself into. So maybe we're spitting it a little positive on him, but I thought that was really impressive. Had some good moments, I thought, attacking the basket, which is like maybe the single biggest thing I was looking for from him in this. Like even ones where he didn't score, like he had, like the Knicks offense was just stuck in mud early in this game. Like very poor structure, did not really seem to have a lot of idea what they were doing. I think a lot of that falls on Tyler Kolek, who I expected to just sort of like dictate action and be an offense unto himself. And for outside of getting the Knicks going in transition, he didn't really do that in the half court very often. But I thought Pacome was able to play off, like despite that, like he had, like there was a possession where there was no flow, like late shot clock, and he rejects the screen, shoots by his guy, ends up getting swatted because again, there's like no space, and the second big is right there, and he tried an up and under and got blocked. Comes right back down. Clintman, who I think was the one who blocked him, beats him off the dribble, catches up, and just blocks the crap out of him on a drive. That was a great moment. Pacome comes back down. He misses Hukporti running the rim, which was a little bit of a bummer. I was a little bummed that the one off the dribble three he took in semi-transition, he bricked pretty badly. I'm hoping that looks smoother as summer league goes on. Defensively, overall, I continue to be impressed with him. Had some bad luck where guys made tough shots in his face, but he covers a lot of ground, long arms, active hands. Him and Hukporti kind of have the same issue where they're almost a little bit too frenzied at times and they get out of position. But you know what? Relative to Karl-Anthony Towns, like someone who's just inert out there, you would rather have that. And then to your point, in garbage time, did a great job running the floor, cutting in the half court. And I like the adjustment he made because at one point on a drive, he missed a layup because he was just going a little bit too fast to the rim and threw up an out of control shot. And then he had one late in the game where he got a hit ahead from Kolek. He did a slow step to let the defender fly by, and after like a high rip through, and just dropped it in. And that was really encouraging to show, all right, he has some like innate change of pace. He can leverage his length. He can leverage that. Like he has like a pretty quick first step going to the rim. I thought there were a lot of positives for him.
Yeah, I want to circle back on the defense because I'm glad you brought it up. Like I thought his defense was fantastic in this game. Well, maybe that's overstating it a little bit. I thought that it was very, very good. I think that the big thing that he's going to have to reel in, which all young players have to eventually, is he's going to have to add a little more patience to his game in terms of not gambling, which we see all kinds of young players. They come in and first thing you want to do is start putting up those stats and whatever. You want to start putting up the steals and the blocks and whatever. So there was once or twice where he kind of got moving too fast and overshot his man just by trying to like grab the ball, like strip him and get, start a transition opportunity. But I admired the gumption to even try it. But otherwise, I mean, was moving his feet well, was keeping guys in front of him. Like you said, I think that he got kind of a bad shake a little bit with some of the shot making where you're like, come on, nobody else is making that shot here today. Why are they making it in Pacome's face? Like he's actually playing good defense here. And then the block that he had really stood out to me as well. Just had a nice like recovery block where he just swooped in, and I forget who was going up for the shot. It might have been
It was Clintman. Yeah.
was it Clintman? Yeah. So went up, blocked Clintman, and that was really impressive to me. So I enjoyed that. But yeah, all in all, just a really nice effort from him. I think it's something to build on. It's like the polar opposite of how we started last year, because last year it was like it's sort of like what you said already, where it was, it's like a more refined version where he's kind of you can see the game starting to slow down for him a little more. You can see, especially on offense, like the patience is there and the ability to like finish properly, get in there, like slow up at just the right moment, just enough to get that shot in the hoop. And um, all in all, just on offense, I thought that he looked a lot more comfortable than he did last year. Even though last year, like he looked comfortable in the sense of you could see that he kind of had a little bit of a bag going and like definitely has a nice looking jumper, but it just didn't seem like the flow was there. In this game, it seemed like he came in more ready to kind of step up and be an offensive weapon during this summer league for the Knicks. So, and look, I mean, if he proves that during the summer league, maybe that changes some of the calculus for this coming season. Because I would not have expected it in a million years. If you would have asked me who's going to come out of this summer league and potentially stake their claim to maybe try to steal a rotation spot, I would be like, maybe Tyler Kolek, maybe Kevin McCullar Jr. If it's Dadiet, that changes things in a really good way for the Knicks, where they can start giving this kid some play time this year and, have another wing out there that is showing good defensive instincts that could work under the tutelage of like two of the better defensive wings of the last like decade in Bridges and Anunoby. And if he starts hitting shots and stuff at the NBA level, yeah, I mean, maybe you can just elevate him earlier than you thought. I personally did not think that he would probably start getting real rotation minutes until maybe next, like the season after this one, the 26-27 season. But if 25-26 is his year, then that is really good for the Knicks, because they kind of, I think, could use one more guy in that backup wing spot just to be safe, and someone else that can soak up minutes sometimes and make some shots, and he might be able to fit that bill.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with you. I buy the shot, especially off the catch. I feel like if he's the guy you are ignoring, he can make you pay. To me, like the defense at the NBA level, like consistently is going to be the question. And like you, I'm encouraged by what we saw in the Nets game last year. I'm encouraged by what we saw today. You do see athletes at the level of Ron Holland. I don't know who I was thinking of there. Just blow by him at times. Like I said it in our pod last night, but I want to continue to see them put him on like just the best possible athlete, the best possible wing on the other team, and see if he can hold up. Because if he can, that is a game changer. And the Knicks, they have 3 wings, and if one of those guys get hurt, it's basically like him or McCullar. But when we come back, I want to get into Tyler Kolek, because I think it was a very mixed bag. It was probably the sloppiest I've ever seen him play. So we'll talk about that in just a sec here on Locked On Knicks. But first, I want to tell you about our good friends over at Game Time. Game Time is the place to make buying tickets fast and simple. Price in the app actually drop the closer you get to first pitch, and they've got incredible last-minute deals, clear seat views, and a lowest price guarantee that takes the worry out of buying. Game Time is the official ticketing partner of Locked On MLB, making it easy to browse the app for an exciting upcoming MLB game. Alex will be disappointed in me for pushing this particular agenda, but the Yankees, a big 11-0 win over the Chicago Cubs, just as we all expected. They demote or cut, I don't really follow baseball, DJ LeMahieu, and everything starts to click. Same trajectory as last year. They'll get to the World Series. They'll get blown out by the Dodgers, but you can get in early by checking out those games against the Cubs this weekend. Game Time also has last-minute deals and zone deals for big savings, like 10% off exclusive zone deals for FIFA World Cup matchups. You're going to want to get those tickets early. That is the sporting event in North America in my lifetime, at least until the Knicks get back to the NBA Finals. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. You can create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, what up, guys? We're back on Locked On Knicks. Alex, I think we're on the same page. A disappointing year 2 debut for Tyler Kolek, a guy who was, I think, just flat out one of the best players in summer league as a rookie, and had some real flashes in the big leagues with the Knicks.
Yeah, I walked away thinking, what happened? Like from this game last year in the summer league, it was like unless I'm grossly misremembering, pretty much from minute 1, it was like, oh, he's the goods, like in the summer league last year. I know that the whole team had kind of a so-so first game last year, which it seems to just be the Knicks way. They never have a good first summer league game, and they always kind of grow over the course of the next few. And then by the end, you can start to see the outline of what could have been potentially a summer league championship team, but they're usually out of the points race by that point or whatever to get seeded. Either way, this one, polar opposite. I mean, just I thought he looked uncomfortable. I thought he looked like he was rushing things. There was just not that like steady hand patience to his game that we've seen from him. Like the whole Tyler Kolek experience is built on like a nonsensical assist to turnover ratio. Like part of it is like, even if people were making the case for him at the NBA level last year, it's like the main thing you can trust out of him is he's not going to screw up much. He's not going to make bad passes. He's not going to give up transition points in the sense of like making a bad pass that leads to that. And yet it felt like that was all that was happening in this game, like a team high 5 turnovers. Obviously, he's handling the ball more than anyone, so that will lead to that sometimes, but just uncharacteristically like risky passes that were off the mark. Maybe this is just a communication issue with some of the newer teammates. I don't know, but he didn't look comfortable running the offense, which that was kind of like red flag number 1. Red flag number 2, I mean, he was talking about, I think he had 6 first quarter points, ends with 10 on 4 of 11 shooting, 0 of 5 from 3. He's talking about things he's been working on, finishing, generating shots, whatever. Didn't see any of that. He didn't look comfortable at all creating his own shot in this first game, which again was something that sort of surprised us last summer league, where he was breaking people down off the dribble, getting inside, hitting floaters, and had a game winner at one point, if I remember correctly. Like, just he was the summer league version of him last year. Like he was that guy. He was going out there winning games for them, scoring when they needed it. even if he had, not had like the best game scoring overall, like just was able to create buckets when they needed them down the stretch of last summer league. Just didn't see any of that. So I really think he's got to bounce back because I mean, we just talked about it yesterday when we were previewing summer league, but to me, this for him almost more than I think there are two guys, and unfortunately both of them did not have great games, but I think there are two guys in the summer league that need to look at this and go, this is basically a tryout. And for Kolek, it's a tryout for potentially getting minutes this year. And for Kevin McCullar Jr., it's a tryout for like, why should we justify giving you another two-way contract?
Mhm.
Um, like, can you do enough to earn it? And I mean, not to spoil too much about probably McCullar that we'll talk about next, but I don't think either guy unfortunately did too much to help their case with this first game. But there's still a number more games to go. We see summer league is fickle. Things turn on a dime sometimes. Sometimes
Mhm.
guys are just uncomfortable at first, but not the greatest opening for Tyler Kolek.
No, to your point, relative to last year, 5 turnovers in this game. He had 7 turnovers in 5 summer league games last year. So that is an obscenely high number for him as a 24-year-old against this level of competition. To your point, we just have a much larger sample size of him being brilliant in that capacity. So it's not particularly concerning, more so just like a disappointing start. And you give some credit to the Pistons, who I thought played like fantastic, like high leverage defense this entire game. Also, maybe acclimating to a new system, coached by Jordan Brink. We don't really know how much of this is Mike Brown, how much of this is the graveyard of Tom Thibodeau's offense, but it was very clear that no one was really on the same page in the early going. That being said, like the quality that maybe stood out the most outside of like just particularly in transition, just the raw genius of his passing was in pick and roll last year in summer league. How often he was the one leading the dance and how it felt like defenders were always on his hip. He always had counters and he felt very sped up at times early in this game. He was settling for a couple of different off balance threes that just felt like bad shots. That hook pass that got intercepted, that was like maybe the first time ever I've seen him. I'm sure there's been another time that I'm just not remembering, but I just saw him get caught in no man's land where he didn't have a plan. Like with his measurables, like very similar to Jalen Brunson. Like obviously Brunson also has the coordination, but it's his mind that separates him. And I don't think it was really separating him much in this one. I will push back a little bit on the shot creation. Not that he was great in that capacity. He did have that nice driving layup by Klintman in the early going. And I like some of the shots he got to, like in the pick and roll, had like a Brunson-esque like snake back into a mid-range jumper that he missed, had like a nice where like off a screen where he spun into a pull-up three that looked very smooth and it just missed. But I like that he's taking those shots. I like that he's going for those shots. On the encouraging side of things, like he was rebounding traffic very well. I thought he held up in defense fine, drew a nice foul, offensive foul on Zakai Ziegler at one point. And then even though this is expected from him, just a virtuoso outlet to Marjan Beauchamp at one point where Beauchamp literally just put his hands at his forehead and the ball from 60 feet away was there, didn't have to slow down, like caught it, up and under. Like I cannot emphasize enough that Tyler Kolek is a genius passing the basketball. But you hinted at it. I also found Kevin McCullar Jr. though. I did think after like just a terrible start, he got his sea legs a little bit. We said it yesterday. At his age, 25 years old, his level of experience, one of the best players in college basketball for a couple of seasons running. You expect him to come out in this setting and look dominant, and I don't think that would be a fair way to characterize his night.
No, not at all. I mean, I was expecting him to look like summer league Josh Hart, and I mean, maybe he looked like the worst night of Josh Hart. Just it was clear that they were emphasizing having him initiate offense often, even with Kolek on the floor, like trying to get him some on-ball reps and see what he had early in the game. Similar vibes. He ended with 3 turnovers, so not quite the 5 that Kolek had, but just he looked uncomfortable. It was I don't want to say that the Knicks were like disorganized, but they were a little disorganized. Just seemed like they couldn't quite figure out what they wanted to do as far as screens and actions and getting guys involved. And that sort of hurt him a little bit because I feel like he was getting a lot of hands around him. A lot of they sort of just had his passes picked out. Granted, also I think that we saw until the refs kind of like took things into their own hands and just called a foul fest, I think in like the second quarter. We did see that the Pistons were clearly coming out with the same mentality they came out with in the playoffs, which was just like, we're going to throw our bodies at people and like, we're going to dare them to call it. And for a little bit, they didn't. I think that McCullar maybe was more of a victim of that than anyone. Although Kolek had a few opportunities where he got, hit too. And it just kind of, I was like, isn't that a foul? Like, I don't like, it's summer league, man. Come on. Like, we're just trying to see reps from these guys. Like, we don't need playoff intensity, like foul skip ball here. But the refs kind of like got it under control in like the second or maybe it was third quarter and just called like a million fouls in the course of like 5 minutes. And then all the players kind of calmed down a little bit, but the game was basically over by that point too. The Knicks were already down by like 20 points. Either way, I think McCullar maybe was a victim of that a little bit. I agree. He did seem to kind of get his feet under him a little bit in the second half. There was one sequence that stood out to me where he kind of like ISO'd from the perimeter, managed to break his man down, and then found Pacome on one of his really nice cuts. And that was kind of like, if I remember correctly, it was like off a spin move or like some sort of fancy move in the paint for McCullar, where he kind of like got around his guy and then in the moment like had the wherewithal to just dump it to Dadiet, who was making a nice cut there. So that was probably my favorite McCullar moment. But in general, I mean, just not a pretty stat line. 13 points, 6 boards, 3 assists, 3 turnovers, 5 of 14 shooting for him, and just 1 of 5 from 3. I mean, I guess unfortunately, the other thing that looked kind of like bad Josh Hart was the threes when he was getting them up. I was like,
Yeah.
"Phew." This unlike Dadier, where you look at it and you go, okay, I see the outline of a good 3-point shot here. When McCullar was getting them up, I was like, woof. I don't think I really see a successful 3-point shooter here in the future. So maybe that's something they should get away from with him and just maybe focus on having him be a driver, kicker, whatever. But there's a part of me, based off how some of the other guys played that were like first timers, that thinks that maybe because of his age and relative lack of upside, his two-way contract might be on the line if he continues playing like this. And you might see some guys like a Dink Pate or um even like Anton Watson, maybe, who's like oh so slightly younger, whatever. Like some guys like that, or James Nnaji, if he doesn't end up getting the last like second round exception, like full deal. And Diawara also, if they plan on bringing him over, like I think there's a kind of a multitude of guys that could potentially step in and take that two-way contract from Kevin McCullar. And certainly if he keeps playing this way, he's definitely not in the running to potentially get a full roster spot as well.
Yeah. First, a correction on my own statement. He's 24, not 25. I don't want to age my guy up, but yeah, he struggled early in this game. Did start to get some separation as it went by. Like my favorite play, like he had like a little hesitation into a blow by for a reverse layup, and you did see him as this game went along, like some real like sauce and force going to the rim. Like another one where he again like just kind of like got away with like a shoulder bump and just shrugged a guy off and had a layup right after he was sort of put in the weight room on the other end of the floor. I really want to continue to watch the defense from him coming out of Kansas. He had a reputation as being one of the best defenders in the country. I thought he was fine on that end of the floor. Like had one really great play and help deep where he jumped up and he took a lob out of the air. That was awesome. I want to see more of that. I want to see him continue to attack closeouts. Like you mentioned, the one to Pacome, and one where he like dumped it off to Hukporti. That was where Hukporti blew the dunk. Like one where he put back his own miss on like a really good second jump. There's flashes of an interesting player. Again, it would be a lot more interesting if he was 20 and not 24. But because the Knicks are desperate for wings, I do still think he is the edge on that spot, because we'll get into it with Diawara and Pate and Beauchamp. Maybe I don't know if we'll talk about Beauchamp, but I don't know if those guys, maybe Beauchamp accepted, are really ready to play on this level. And I think it might end up being a direct battle between Beauchamp and McCullar for that spot, because especially if Pacome's the other option, like you want a fourth wing who can just kind of hang out there. And I think it's on those guys to prove they can do that. But a lot more to come. Ariel, Hukporti, some of the tertiary guys showing some flashes. We'll get into all of it in just a sec here on Locked On Knicks. All right, we're going to finish up going rapid fire on the rest of the guys in the Knicks. Opening, somber, not fun. 104-86 loss to the Detroit Pistons. Congratulations to the Detroit Pistons. Even though I couldn't remember his name earlier, Ron Holland is incredible. He 28, 11, and 4 stocks in this one. Seems like he's an amazing three-point shooter out of nowhere, which if that continues is scary for the rest of the Eastern Conference. But Alex, What did you think of Ariel Hukporti in this game?
I thought he was pretty good. Inoffensive, I guess would be the way I would put it. I think that he had some moments. 6 points, 5 boards, managed 2 assists, 2 blocks. Like you saw some of the flashes of the stuff that you're hoping to see from him at the NBA level. Like if he starts staking his claim as like the Knicks second slash third big this year. I don't know how he'll end up being classified depending on what starting lineup is, but I guess really if you consider it where it's like Cat, Mitch, Yabu, and then him it would be like some combination of those 4 would be out there any given time with Hukporti getting vastly less. But I do think he could fill that role in the NBA. I do wonder if he's maybe one of those guys that suffers a little bit from summer league spacing and overall lack of competent ball handler play, particularly in this game where Kolek was not playing as well.
Mhm.
Um, where it's like, we saw like he had some pretty solid moments with good ball handlers on the big club last year and really shown during the regular season when the Knicks needed him. Um, in this game, I felt like it was just, I don't know, it was just kind of passe. I don't know. I guess that's the best way I can think of to describe it. Um, I think the one thing, if I was gonna say I was hoping to see something a little more out of him that I feel like I didn't really get to see as much as I wanted to. I wanted to see some like a little bit of short roll from him and like a little bit of him like trying those like little floaters and like touch shots. And I feel like we didn't get to see as much of that as I would like. And I hope maybe for one of these games they kind of try to prioritize that and just like challenge him to like see what he can do on offense. Cause there were certain moments last year, like during the regular season, where he put up like some little floaters and stuff in the paint, and you go, like that's pretty good stuff for a guy that size. And that could be the thing that eventually differentiates him from like a Mitchell Robinson, who's, obviously we know phenomenal player, but just relegated to just finishing right at the rim. If you can get a guy who could do sort of some of the stuff that Mitch does on defense and then also has a little more bag on offense, then maybe you're looking at sort of like I mean, his absolute ceiling, if I feel like if everything works out perfectly for Hukporti, could be turning into something of an Isaiah Hartenstein, clone almost, where he has that kind of soft touch game as well as the hard nosed like rebounding and tough defense on the inside and stuff that we saw out of iHeart when he was with the Knicks, which I'm sure is part of what drew the Knicks to Hukporti to begin with. So I just want to see a little more of that. I just feel like he was used kind of in a traditional sort of way, I guess, exactly how you would expect, but I want to see a little bit of unexpected with him going forward through the rest of the summer league. So I guess that's more on the coaching staff. And it seemed obvious that they had certain things that they empowered certain guys to do in this game. Like I mentioned, McCullar, like they definitely made a point of being like, we want you to handle the ball for X amount of possessions. And Dadiet, I think they challenged to, be a little more aggressive on offense with the cuts and stuff. So hopefully, they kind of take turns with some of these guys and give them a chance to shine. And hopefully we get to see a little more out of Huck going forward. But again, not bad, not good. I think this is just kind of like an inoffensive game for him to me.
Yeah, I thought he had some moments. He did have that one short roll where he drew 2 and he was forced at the last second to bail out and throw a bounce pass to the corner. And I was debating it with someone on Twitter. I don't really remember Cat ever making that pass last year, a short roll or not. I'm sure he did, where we just zipped it to the corner. But I mean, Hukporti he's just like very comfortable with the ball. There was another time he got a rebound and like he dribbled it up like 2 or 3 and just with kind of one hand like shuffled it ahead to Kolek. It was almost like a hook and ladder in reverse where Kolek was like cutting right in front of him and he just sort of flipped it ahead to him, like just comfortable with the basketball in his hands. Like did have one like runner where unless I was hallucinating and this was someone else, where he was just like a foot inside the free throw line. He leapt off 1 foot and just flipped it in. Like he does have like some of that Hartenstein, like maybe there's something in the water in Germany, but like that Hartenstein just magic touch where like you're like, there's no way that's going in, and it just flips in. Had a just insane block where he murdered a Tolu Smith shot, and his hand was on top of the basketball. Like gets up and down very quickly. I continue to just love what I see from Ariel Hukporti. I agree that this wasn't a great game, but just some of the traits, some of the flashes are really encouraging. Like I think he's going to have like an 8-9 year NBA career and be like a key piece for the Knicks if they potentially move on for Mitchell Robinson. And if he, like, obviously, like you, I would love if Mitch was a Knick for life, but given that he's up for an extension, like if you can get 85% of that, and like with some added stuff on the cheap, like you have to think about it. I'll hit Diawara in a minute, and then I'll leave it to you to try to hit Dink Pate and James Nnaji in a minute. I wasn't. I didn't think Diawara stood out in this game. His stats were fine: 7 points, 7 boards in 7 minutes. His first play with the ball was fantastic, where they ran a pick and roll, and he just bailed on it because Skuka, if I'm saying his name right, I don't think I am,
I think it
was
was
cutting back door.
Shuka.
Shuka.
They said
And
it's if they got it right. I don't know. I don't know for
yeah,
sure, but they were saying Shuka.
we'll find out. Maybe, I don't know. And he was cutting back door, and Diawara just like bailed on the pick and roll and zipped it to him. That was a good read and a product of just him being freakishly tall. A couple of missteps defensively. You could tell he was trying to play hard, trying to play intense. Obviously, for him, this is his first action. Though he did play on the international stage, but consistently against like borderline NBA level athletes. So I do think there'll be some growing pains there. Did have one ridiculous layup where he took off like just one solid step inside the free throw line and then kind of hooked it in plus the foul. Like it was a little Giannis light, if I can be a bit hyperbolic for a second. Hit the 65-foot third quarter buzzer beater. That was really sick. And again, just a couple brain farts defensively. Like the shot looks a little mechanical at times. I'm hoping that looks better. And if you go down for him as things go on, I hope they let him switch more defensively. I didn't really see a ton of that in this game. I want to see him challenge like on smaller players, on bigger players, and see how he holds up, because that's really the main intrigue for him. I'm not really counting on him to ever be an NBA player, but interesting just in terms of his size and some of the raw traits there. But Alex, I know I was not particularly excited by Dink Pate's game. I was a little more excited by James Nnaji's game. You seem more passionate than me about both. So why don't you take us home on those two guys?
Yeah, so Dink Pate, I'll make the quick pitch for. I think the main thing that I was happy seeing out of him that feeds into a sort of theory I had yesterday about why I think he could be a good fit for one of the two-way deals. The guy just did not stop moving. Like he was nonstop movement. He was clearly being vocal, was being like, the clap guy on the court, like making sure to like keep everybody engaged, whatever. There was one point that kind of stood out to me. I made a point to like kind of watch him specifically for a couple possessions, and at one point I noticed that even when he was just like in the corners spacing,
Mm.
he's like moving his hips back and forth and like couldn't stop moving his hands. Whatever was just like constant motion. The guy just like seemed like once he was on the court, he just couldn't stop buzzing. I like that. I like that more so just for like, look, even if he doesn't turn into anything, you get that guy on the practice court and he's out there like pushing Jalen Brunson, Josh Hart, whatever. Like they're trying to have a day off, and Dink Pate's out there like getting up in their jersey in practice and
Mm.
challenging them to stay focused or whatever. Like that's great to me. I think that he could be that sort of like locker room practice type dude, no matter what. That said, the stats terrible. It was 6 points. I mean, I guess not super terrible. Well, like 6 points, 6 boards, 3 assists, but shot 1 of 8, 1 of 2 from three. I did much like McCullar. The 2 attempts he took from three, I was honestly surprised the one went in. I did not look at his 3-point shot and think like that guy's got the juice. Like
Mm-mm.
this guy's gonna be a great 3-point shooter. I do not see it, and the numbers bear out that especially at this point, he is not a 3-point shooter, even though he wants to be. I mean, he shot like under 30%, I think, this past year.
Like
Um,
23. Yeah, not
yeah,
good.
not great. So uh, I just like the energy from him. I'm hoping that we get to see, maybe them find some ways to have him like handle the ball and get a little more opportunity like in like a pick and roll situation where he can sort of use that burst and attack off of a pick and get downhill and maybe see a little more of that. I want to see a highlight dunk from him at some point. All in all though, I like the energy. I think he's a valuable guy to potentially have around for the big club because I just think that he's going to be someone that seems to have the right attitude, super humble, seems to like just have a really good thought process in terms of like, I just want to earn my place. I'm going to work really hard. And that's that. Maybe he never turns into anything in the NBA. Maybe they sign him to a two-way and he puts in that work. And then we see like, I mean, you mentioned Ron Holland, who like last year I was looking at being like, this dude can't shoot for anything. Like, good luck staying on the floor in that playoff series, whatever. Like, ha ha ha, sucks for you. Your top 5 pick can't shoot. And he came out and like scorched the nets in this one and look different,
Mhm.
like he looks like he's moving different because he put in a ton of time to work on his 3-point shot. So maybe Dink Pate's that guy, maybe he's not. Who knows? James Nnaji, I also really enjoyed a little bit of the foul trouble stuff that we were thinking might happen at 6 personal fouls in not even 12 minutes. So that's impressive in its own right. I think maybe if they try to play him a bunch of minutes one game, he might press the 10 foul limit. But the aggression on defense and the versatility on defense, like if they're able to whittle this guy down, like I think I made the analogy yesterday of like these guys start as like a block of marble and they have to get chiseled by the coaching staff. And this is where you start the chiseling process is in summer league. If you take the block of marble and you start chiseling it down, like the physical tools are there for a nasty defender. Like the big one that stood out to me at one point, he picks up full court on defense, which I don't even know if that was called for or not, but he just did it and just came up and picked up Ron Holland, who was cooking at that
Mhm.
time, and took him full court and then managed to get the ball away from him. And then just by virtue of being a not particularly ball handling inclined big man, he ultimately lost the ball when Holland followed up on it, didn't allow him to get like a dunk or something off of that steal, and forced Nnaji to bounce it off his own leg, and then he ends up losing the ball and losing that possession. But the steal was really impressive, and having a big that can go against the top like guard wing on the other team that's cooking and have him pick him up full court and get a
Mhm.
steal off of it. Pretty good stuff. So I'm very intrigued to see some more from him. I mean, I'm sure we'll see at least one game like at some point later in summer league where the sophomore guys mostly get shut down. And they just get to take the rest of summer league off because we often see that. At that point, I think Najee's going to have at least one game where he's going to get a lot of minutes, and I'm really intrigued to see what we get out of him for that. But anyway, I think that's enough for this first game. We sure talked a lot for a almost 20-point loss
Yeah.
at the beginning of summer
Real,
league,
real,
but
real, real sicko stuff on this
real
podcast.
sicko stuff. But this is ultimately it's more about the players than the results. We know this from years and years of covering terrible Knicks summer league teams that just never seem to figure it out, no matter how many young players they have on it that we think have promise. But at least we got Pacome Dadiet out of this thing, and a really great first game for him. Hopefully, we'll get some more good performances going forward. But till then, we'll talk to you soon. Thank you all for listening, and we'll be back with you for the next summer league game and more because we got to fill some off-season content. So lots of great stuff coming up in the future. Till then, thank you all for listening. Talk to you soon. Peace out, everybody.